The cat would not let the baby be put down in the corner of the nursery. Cassiopeia Brunahilda Marquez was a pediatric dentist. She had built her career on noticing things in small mouths that other people missed: the faint chalkiness of early enamel hypoplasia, the gum line that was just slightly off. She trusted her eye. She was good at her job. Her cat was a tortoiseshell named Patroclus, who had come with her from her residency apartment to her first practice, to her first house. He was 8 years old. He was patient. He had loved her newborn daughter, Ileana, from the day they brought her home. Ileana was 4 months old. The nursery was new. They had moved into the house at 36 weeks pregnant and finished the room at 38. It had a fresh coat of paint, a new rug, a refurbished crib from a consignment store, and a small reading chair in the southeast corner under the window. The wall behind the chair was the exterior wall facing the side yard. Cassiopeia liked to read to Ileana in that chair before naps. She had been doing it for 6 weeks. Patroclus did not approve. The first time she sat down in the chair with the baby, the cat jumped onto her lap and stood between them. She laughed and put him on the floor. He jumped back up. She laughed again and put him in the hallway. He came back. By the 4th try, she gave up and moved to the rocking chair across the room, and he settled at her feet. She told her husband at dinner, "The cat is jealous. He doesn't like that chair." She did not understand why this distinction mattered until much later. The pattern continued. Patroclus would let her sit with Ileana in the rocking chair. He would not let her sit in the reading chair if she tried to put Ileana down in a corner. On a playmat, on a folded blanket, anywhere within 4 feet of that wall, Patroclus inserted himself between the baby and the floor. By week 4, Ileana had developed a cough. Not bad, a little dry. It came and went. The pediatrician at her 4-month appointment said upper respiratory, very common this time of year. By week 5, Ileana was congested at night. The pediatrician said humidifier and saline drops. By week 6, Ileana had a rash on the side of her neck. The pediatrician said baby eczema, very common. Here is a hydrocortisone cream. By week 7, Cassiopeia was tired in a new way. She had been telling herself it was the 4-month sleep regression. Her own throat felt scratchy. She had been blaming the seasonal allergies she had developed in her 30s. On a Saturday morning, she carried Ileana into the nursery, sat in the rocking chair, and started reading. Patroclus jumped onto her lap. He did not stand between them. He pressed his head against Ileana's cheek and then stood up and walked to the reading chair in the corner and sat down on it. He looked at her. He stayed. It was the first time he had ever sat on that chair. Cassiopeia put the book down. She walked over to the chair. She crouched. She looked at her cat. She put her hand on the cushion. The cushion was slightly damp. She had not put anything on it. The window beside it was closed. She looked at the wall behind the chair. The wallpaper was bubbling, barely, in a small spot about 18 inches above the floor. If you stay for stories about what animals notice before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. She pressed her fingers against the bubble. The drywall beneath gave slightly. She peeled back a small corner of the wallpaper. Black mold, a patch of it, about the size of a dinner plate, growing on the back of the drywall on the exterior wall of her 4-month-old daughter's nursery. The environmental remediation company came on Monday. The leak in the side yard hose bib had been seeping into the wall cavity for at least 6 months, probably longer. The mold was Stachybotrys. They opened the wall and found that the patch behind the wallpaper was the visible third of a much larger colony. The HVAC duct ran through the wall cavity. The infectious disease specialist, Cassiopeia, saw for her daughter. A woman named Dr. Astlihan Peterson said the cough, the congestion, and the rash were all consistent with chronic mold exposure in an infant. She used the words detectable in your daughter's bloodstream and the words good news caught early and the words how did you find it? Cassiopeia said, my cat would not sit on the chair. Dr. Peterson did not smile. She wrote it in the chart, in pen. Has your animal ever done something you couldn't explain until it was the only thing that did? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Ileana's symptoms cleared in 3 weeks once they moved out of the house during remediation. Cassiopeia's scratchy throat cleared at the same time. The wall came down. A mold was removed. The drywall was replaced. They moved back in 6 weeks later. The reading chair did not come back to the house. The carpet in the corner was replaced. The HVAC ducts were professionally cleaned. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who came with you from one apartment to one house to another. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. The first night they were back, Cassiopeia carried Ileana into the freshly painted nursery and sat in the new chair where the old one had been. Patroclus walked into the room behind her. He looked at the corner for a long moment. He looked at the chair. He sniffed the air. Then he jumped onto her lap and curled up against the baby's small back. And he did not move for the rest of the story she read. Tomorrow there's another one, about a Doberman who refused to let her family adopt a friendly stranger she had just met.